Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Matador Yachtcast. Yes, I said Yachtcast, not podcast. We are here in beautiful Tampa, Florida at the Digital Dealer Conference on this amazing boat. And talking about amazing boats, I have an amazing set of people that are on this amazing boat, and we're going to talk some everything and everything about anything and everything, I guess. Anything and everything that we want to talk about when it comes to automotive.
Welcome to the Matador Yachtcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
I'm going to introduce you. Guys, I have April, Randy, and Sean with me. We're going to have a lot of fun today, guys. We're really going to get into it. I love coming down to the Digital Dealer Conference. I think they do just an amazing job of bringing just vendor guests and dealer and OEM speakers and really giving real actionable plans that people can take back to their dealership. And hopefully during this podcast, we can even enhance more of that. Before we get into our topics today, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story. Because I'm always fascinated how people get into this business, because I truly believe no one wakes up one day and goes, automotive industry, that sounds like a career. So April, I'll start with you, and then I'll work my way down to Sean. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the industry.
Well, name is April Simmons, and I started in automotive in 1996. And I actually started on the banking side. So I grew up in Nebraska, and people would bring the loans to the bank. And I started to get to know the finance guys at the bank. And I was like, they've got a really cool job. I think I want to do that. And so when I first moved to Arizona in 99, I said, you know what? I'm going to go be a finance manager at a car dealership. So I walked in, and naive as I could be, and I'm like, I'm going to be a finance manager. And they're like, oh, that's cute. No, seriously, let's explain how this really works. You have to sell, and you have to do these things. So, anyway, about a year later, I actually did move into finance, spent 8 years in the box, then went to retail desk manager and did that for 7 years. And then they decided, hey, April, why don't you go be in the internet? And I said, I don't know if you want me to do that. I still have a flip phone, and I don't check my email. And they were like, yeah, no, we think you're the right fit. I'm like, okay. So when I went in, I decided I wanted to be the best. And now I'm at an opportunity where I get to do all things internet, all things marketing for a group, and actually help all the other stores that don't get it. And, you know, that's really where my passion has been, is that, you know, it's hard. We're busy, and we need people to help us get to that next level. And you need the time and energy of education to do it. And that's why I'm happy to be here on this awesome yacht, which props to Jason Harris and his way of doing this, because this is a super fun way to collaborate, and I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome, April. Thank you. I appreciate the fact that you stumbled into this business. It is definitely a huge benefit to us. Hey, Randy, for yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the business.
Sure. I'm Randy Kobat. I've been in the industry for 23 years. Right now I'm with Cox Automotive, and I have responsibility for Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer and vAuto inventory management software. So 23 years ago, I had finished up an engagement for a provider of software in the industry, and they asked me if I wanted to join the company as head of strategy for what was at the time ADP Dealer Services and now CDK. And I ended up spending 10 years there at CDK. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, Sean, my brother from another mother. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, man? How you doing? Good to see you.
Really good.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry.
Yeah, well, in 2002, actually, I stumbled upon this industry. I was only supposed to be for 3 months. I was coming out of university. I graduated marketing. And while I was looking for work in my field, I had to pay the bills because I was on my own. So my little brother at the time got me an interview to wash cars at Fixed Ops. So I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's not who I am. It's my circumstance. I need a bit of cash. And 3 months became 10 years. And 10 years now becomes, I'm going on 21 years now in the business. So I started off at Fixed Ops. I was doing that for about 9 to 10 years. I really learned my craft. I started off the bottom washing cars, then a porter. Then I did some appointments, service advisor, service manager, sold some used cars. Then I was going to get out of the business at year 8. And then I stumbled on this thing that has now become known as BDC. And I thought it was so interesting because I love data, but I also love people. And when we really started to understand, because I'm from Canada, obviously, so we're a little bit behind. So when we were trying to figure out what this BDC thing was, I just felt it was an amalgamation of actually everything I've ever done. So I'm like, this is cool stuff. So, and I've been building BDCs for Canada's largest dealers ever since.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? It's definitely one of those industries. Once it kind of gets in your blood and under your skin, there's just no matter what, man, you're not getting it out. It just is what it is. And I think one of the reasons for that is just because of the amazing community. You know, like here we all are. We have vendors, we have dealers, but we're all here willing to just to talk to each other, work with each other, collaborate with each other for just kind of the betterment of the industry. And I got to be honest with you, I'm excited, especially right now. I've been in the business for almost 20 years, and this is really we're at a point in time that just really excites me. Even though there's a lot of things that are going on right now, you know, coming out of the pandemic, or maybe we're kind of getting to the sense of normalcy. I mean, I didn't hear the COVID word used a lot throughout, you know, this conference, which, you know, it felt more normal, right? You know, but you know, I think right now with the last 24 months, there's so many changes that happened to this industry, and I think positive ways. And yes, there was some negativity to it, but there was definitely some positive things that happened. I mean, you know, we're meeting customers now where they want to be met. You know, I think the final nail in the coffin that is the 12-point sales process has been hammered in, and I think that thing has been 6 feet in the ground now and buried, and now we have buying processes. Now we don't just have one, we have multiple ones. There's just so many things that have changed in the last 24 months. So that's where I think I want to start today's conversation off. It's just from kind of your guys' perspective, from maybe a people or process or technology perspective, what is some of the biggest changes that you've seen happen in the last couple of years? I'll start down at this end and I'll kind of work my way over.
Sure. Well, for me, what I've noticed, I've been waiting for this my entire career, basically, but where the BDC is actually up front and center. I'm not sure if you guys would agree, but I've never, I've been advocating and fighting for BDC for 20 years, and I've never heard people refer to it or put as much attention on it as in the last couple of months. So I'm really excited for that, and it's kind of like I've been waiting for this. You know, I'm just trying to provide, you know, some kind of, I guess you could say, you know, bring it up to the forefront, coach people. And I mean, right now, and I think you mentioned we were going to get into this after, but with vehicle acquisition and stuff, the BDC also now has to start evolving from book shows sold. Well, the inventory shortage has completely affected the BDC as well, right? So
there's a lot of these changes that have affected us, I think, in positive ways. You know, and I think you know, our approach to our people, the way we're approaching our process, and definitely our technologies.
Absolutely.
Has Randy, for yourself, you know, what has been some of the biggest changes that you've observed in the last couple of years?
Well, I think the biggest change, and I talked a little about it in my workshop this week here at Digital Dealer, is the fact that the number of used cars acquired outside of the two traditional channels of auction and trade-in tripled over the last year. So meeting the consumer where they are, and getting good quality used cars out of the service drive, whether that's street purchases. You know, we generated 1.2 million more instant cash offers from Kelley Blue Book last year than we did in the year before. So significant growth in consumers wanting to either dispose of that third car that they didn't need while they were working from home virtually, or really needing transportation and needing to get rid of the car that was kind of on its last legs.
Yes, no, you're 100% right. I mean, I would have never thought in my wildest dreams that we'd be having that many conversations, or I would be building and developing out an entire department dedicated just to vehicle acquisition. I mean, April, for yourself, again, lots of changes. Definitely, I know on your side. What has some have been the biggest observational changes you've seen?
You know, what's interesting is I actually think there's not been as many changes as we all think. I think we're just actually finally starting to have the conversation about what has been going on for the last 20 years, and now the light is being shown in all these little areas of opportunity that have actually been there for a really long time. You know, we've been talking a lot about acquisition and fixed ops, that's and BDC. Those have been kind of the three primary conversations, but I've been talking about them for 15 years. You know, I was showing the fixed ops guys 15 years ago that 70% of our sales ad budget actually drove fixed ops business. And I could prove it. We could look at analytics and say, look, here's the goal they completed, which was to schedule a service appointment, right? So I think that the opportunity now is so great for some foundational movement to go back and say, hey, we've actually had all these cracks for a really long time. Let's take this opportunity to fill those cracks. And acquisition's another one. I mean, I actually, about 4 years ago, so we're talking pre-pandemic, I started to watch what I felt in my CRM was trade appraisals going down. And I said, well, why are trade appraisals going down? And it went back to where I'm going to be, this is so weird. People say, April, what's your secret sauce? And I'm like, well, I take what's worked forever, which you said was in the ground. And I'm like, well, the 12-step process really works. It's just in a different way. So when I first went into internet, that's all I knew. So I said, okay, I just need to sell myself, sell the dealership, do all these things that I was trained to do, but I need to do it in a digital fashion. So when we start thinking about the Foursquare, well, where does the Foursquare now start? It starts on your website, right? It starts in these conversations that are happening before people come into the showroom. So if I have a trade-in tool that is so old that I'm telling you that your car is worth, $5,000 less than you're going to see anywhere else, then of course they're going somewhere else and selling it somewhere else, right? Like, people didn't stop going to 20 some websites. If anything, they're going to more. So if we want to really capture our business, we've got to do a better job of being that one-stop shop and being more open about that out of the gate. And I feel like that's been the biggest transition, is at least the conversations now in those key areas of BDC, of internet, of vehicle acquisition. All that space is now starting to have some legs to it, which is great to see.
Oh, 100%. I couldn't agree more. It's exciting to see a lot more conversations, and it's exciting to see not just conversations, but real operational strategies. Real budgets being built around these. I mean, let's get into vehicle acquisition, because it touches everything. It touches the fix ops. It touches the BDC in a big way. It touches the people and the technology. It is. I'm such a big fan of it, and I think there's still a lot to be learned. And you know what I hope is that all this amazing change that we've created around vehicle acquisition doesn't die off. Like, this is this amazing snowball, and it's just kind of building momentum. And my concern is that inventory levels get back to normal. They're like, okay, that was fun, and they're like, back to business. So, let's kind of get you guys' perspective and thoughts in the vehicle acquisition department from a people process technology perspective. Sean, I'll start with you, and I'll work my way down.
All right, well, you know me, it's about people. Always about people first,
yes.
Right? So one of my mentors in this business used to tell me, and to this day I remember, a fool with a tool is a fool with a tool, right? So,
like
well, I mean, and the day he said it, I was just like, yeah, thinking about it. So, I mean, we could put all the tools in place, but if we're not coaching our people, if we're not doing it right, I mean, there's a difference between training and there's a difference between coaching, right? So I think personally right now, I believe in what I would like to refer to as like circular economics. Never before have we seen more profits in our vehicles. What I would like to do, and what I'm advocating in my dealer groups, because I do a lot of BDC consulting, is basically to redeploy those profits into training and coaching and get ready for what is coming. Because the fact is, and you'll probably correct me if I'm wrong, because you know a lot more about this than me, but I don't think that we're going to go back to the norm, if you want to call it, anytime soon.
That's a good point.
A lot of us are waiting for that. Oh, in 3-4 months, when the industry booms again. I don't think it's going to be 3 or 4 months. So I'm all for like incubated ecosystems. If you have like used car managers or like the newest salesperson, instead of firing them, like, put them in the BDC. Let's use the BDC as an incubator, if you will, and create new ecosystems. Because I think, before I shut up, one of the things, but I think we have an opportunity right now. Like, what more needs to happen, right? And I think the COVID situation has kind of leveled the playing field for everybody, regardless of budgets.
Yes.
Right. So I think we need to reinvest in our people, because April said it before, we could do a better job. But with a 47% churn ratio in our industry, maybe we need to start there.
You're 100% right. I mean, Randy, for yourself, when I think about, technology and processes are only as good as the people that are actually going to be utilizing them. You know, vehicle acquisition, I know there's so many different topics that we can kind of attack it from. How would you like to come at it? From a tech perspective, process, or a people perspective?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I would want to talk about is the process.
Yeah.
Because you could give the same car to 10 different appraisers at the same store and come up with 10 vastly different numbers. So, you know, we can say that it's a people issue, but without giving them a good, clean process. You talked about the 12-step sales process. We don't have a 12-step appraisal process. So we've been focusing at Cox Automotive a way to create a consistent, repeatable process that gets more accurate valuations on every car that you bring in. Now, the positive is that when you have that repeatable, consistent process that all appraisers follow, and you keep track of that in the technology tools, then the coaching discussions become much more robust because you can eliminate those that were on strategy and only talk about, you know, why did you put another 500 on this car that took us off strategy, because now the asset, the investment we've made in this asset isn't going to get the return that we wanted to get. So we're really focused on all three aspects, people, process, and technology, because I think only bringing all three together is where you're going to get really big movement in performance.
100%. You can't do one without the other. Even though I do see a lot of dealerships attempting to do that. You know, they think that I can just buy that piece of technology. April, I'm sure you've seen this happen. I'm just going to buy that trade-in widget. I'm just going to throw it on my website, and we are now in the acquisition business. So, April, I'd love to get your thoughts. People, process, tech when it comes to vehicle acquisition.
All right, so I think you had mentioned when we kicked this off that like Shawn is your brother from another mother. He just might be my brother from another mother, because I love everything that he had to say, and part of it really is genuinely the people. So people buy from people. People service from people that they like. So if we can go back again to some foundational situation and say, hey, if I can train staff members now that want to stay with us, people will always give that person the opportunity first. People call me first. I sold Toyotas for 15 years. I don't have a Toyota store. Those Toyota customers call me first. They're more loyal to me than they are to a brand, than they are to a dealership. And when we start understanding and investing in our people first, we will start to see that. Then you start to look at that full value of a customer. So where's the easy spot to get a vehicle acquisition right now that we've always missed, we've always talked about, and we still miss, and that's in our service department. But if I have a sales department that sticks and a service department that sticks, now you have people caring about people underneath the dealership roof, which now creates this, what we call that customer value, lifetime value of a customer, and I don't have to overpay and have a negative ROI for that acquisition. Everyone, I'm going to go against the grain right now, right? Everyone's jumping in the lake now of vehicle acquisition. I don't like to jump in when everyone else is there because that creates negative ROI. That means I'm going at that last point when I should have been talking to this customer the day I sold them a car. That's when vehicle acquisition should start, is the day they actually bought their last vehicle from you. And that's where I feel like right now everyone's missing it, because as a group of an industry, we are so reactive versus proactive because we don't want to see the forest through the trees. We want instant gratification, and we're doing it right now. So a lot hasn't changed because that's exactly what we're doing right now. When we throw all this stuff on our website, when we say, hey, we're going to switch all our marketing to fixed ops and vehicle acquisition. Okay, we should have been doing this all along. We should have started from the beginning.
That's the biggest concern that I have right now, quite frankly. Last year, dealers had record profitability in the used car department. We've seen in the first quarter of this year, those profits per car retail start to decline. And last year, I think, quite frankly, a lot of the processes and technology that's been put in place is, in many ways, the data is starting to get ignored when everything is going so well.
Yep.
So bad purchases can be masked because it's going to be, I can list it at a higher retail price next week because that's what the market's been doing with the lack of supply.
That's a good point.
So these market masking effects are going to start to rear their ugly head as we go through the rest of 2022.
Yeah, that's a great point. And what to follow suit, I think that especially now. I mean, we're all like at 20 plus years in the industry, right? So we've seen our share of times, but I think right now, as a strategy, I think we need, it's my opinion, of course, but I think it's the time for more leaders and less managers. I think managers are important.
I know this is wrong to do during a podcast, but I have to stand up and just give my friend a high five. Just have to do that.
I just, and we know each other, but I'm a very big proponent of people development, very, very big. Manage the data, coach the people. It's my slogan for my company. Manage the data, coach the people. Do not use the data to discipline people. Use the data to develop them, right? We were talking about career paths earlier. I'm very heavily into emotional intelligence, the EQ aspect. April was mentioning it before. I mean, buying a vehicle is an emotional experience.
For sure.
Yet we're always looking at things from a binary numbers kind of perspective. And don't get me wrong, the numbers are important, but the numbers should be used to calculate your trajectory. We should be more concerned with our trajectory than with the results, because as what Tim was saying, the data right now, especially in the environment that we find ourselves in, there's such volatility.
Oh, yes, 100%.
I mean, everything is changing every 2 months, whereas before, you could project the next 6-7 months because we had some stability. But right now, I think the name of the game would be, and I hate to use the word because everybody's using pivot, but just have a plan, but just don't be anchored. Kind of just
agree.
Be flexible and move forward in this acquisition and get into the service drive, like we were saying. I mean, for the first time ever in our industry, we were deemed an essential service.
Right? Right?
I'm so excited to hear that, because what was open during the hardest times? Hospitals, the supermarkets, and the service department. That's incredible. So what of a responsibility we now have towards our communities and our societies. Instead of having those upgrade sales, why don't we have downgrade sales?
Right.
There we go.
Unfortunately, what the pandemic has also caused is the level of divorces have went up. The level of splits went up. So we're going to need even more vehicles, and we have to be more cognizant with regards to people's emotional states.
And are you scared? I mean, question for you, Shawn. Are you mentioned, the turnover rate being somewhere around 47%.
47%.
Right? So am I the only one who's looking at all of our staff right now and thinking that number is going to almost double in the next year to 2 years? Because when, we talk about our history, and we've all been here for a very long time, I go back to, 2007 when anyone could sell a car and they made great money. But when they had to do the things they didn't want to do, then the grass was greener and the hops started to happen. A lot of people either hopped to another store and hopped to another store, or they left automotive completely because they were like, oh, this is how much money I make and I do this and I don't have to work hard and I can do all these things. And they go and they buy, boats and houses and they do all these things. And now we're going to lose so many people out of automotive when we've worked finally so hard to get some great talent in this business. Yeah. And I'm fearful with this next generation that we're going to lose a lot of people.
I think that's a concern, right? Yes. So we have always had high turnover in our industry, but with the Great Resignation, we now are competing with other industries outside of automotive for the people that we have in our stores. So there's a lot more competition and a lot more options available as everybody's struggling with employee retention and finding good quality people.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, April, if you're going to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs, right? So I think unfortunately this had to happen. I think for decades, our industry, and I love the industry, don't get me wrong, but I think for decades, I refer to it as cognitive dissonance. The people at the top were just, this is the way they saw things, and we were all yelling at them like, no, this is not how we do it, and then look at what happened, right? So whether you like it or not, now we are forced to change, regardless of how you feel, regardless of your budget, and moving forward,
it's going to be an acquisition game.
It's going to be an acquisition game.
It's not just an acquisition game.
Acquisition employees as well.
That's right. And I love this theme. Well. I love this theme that we got going on here, guys, because we start off with the acquisition of vehicle. I love the segue that we've kind of taken into of like, look, when the getting's good, the getting's good, right? But once you're actually having to go back and really push hard and dig for those opportunities. It's like I heard a stat from one of the CRMs recently that it was like over 35% of the leads that come in are on sold units, right? And the response is like, thank you, it's sold. And that's the extent of it, right? And it's so easy. It is so easy right now, but it gets a lot harder. So let's talk about that. I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, so I'm going to kind of finish off this last question of, how do we acquire that new talent? What do we say? I mean, look, and we all love this industry, all right? You can tell we're incredibly passionate about this industry, but I think from the outside world, most people are not passionate. No one's waking up going, I want to be in the automotive industry. All right, so I'd love to kind of get each unique perspective of what we kind of maybe need to change, to acquire new talent. April, I'll start with you, and I'll work my way down to Shawn.
Well, one of the statements that I love most is the idea of take care of your customers take care of your employees who take care of your customers, and your customers will take care of your business. And that is probably one of my most favorite quotes that I genuinely believe in. We tell our sales staff to go out there and have empathy toward our customers, right? And this is how you sell. Yet as a management team, we don't give the empathy to our staff in that same way. So practice what we preach. I think that's the biggest and best thing we can do, is to actually treat our employees the way we expect our employees to treat our customers. And it doesn't have to be bigger than that. If I train them, I care about them, I hold them accountable, I individualize them so they don't feel like they're a different person. I like to equate it to, how do you take care of your kids, right? Do I have two kids, one that gets A's without trying, and I get somebody else, my other child maybe struggles to get the C. When they get a B, should I be like, it's still not an A, still not an A? No, you want to celebrate people individually and make sure you're getting the best out of them individually, and then they know you actually care about them. And it doesn't mean you let them walk over you. It doesn't mean you don't have, bedtimes and stuff, right? You got to have some stability to the whole thing. But I don't think it has to be overcomplicated. And I feel like as an industry, that's something we really do, is we overcomplicate everything. Make it simple. Just take care of people.
That's right. It's people business. Let's actually be people.
Yes. Yes.
Randy, for yourself?
I think just in this short conversation, you probably realized I'm a data guy. So I would want to start with the data. And there's so many simple resources you can go to create an employee engagement survey and ask your employees how they feel.
Yes.
What areas do they need additional support or help in? So I would want to start there. And then I think the real opportunity that we have is, regardless of how the biggest of the big dealer groups get all the press, we're still a family-owned industry. The average dealer has, 2.1 rooftops. So because we're a family-owned type of business, we have the flexibility to create unique career paths. And, the younger generation today, really, they talk about the gig economy. They are always doing these side hustles. And I think what I love about that and about the younger generation is that we can create those opportunities for them inside our stores.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? Yeah. Go do something in fixed ops for the next 3 months. Go do something in the BDC for the next 3 months. We have this opportunity to create these general managers over time, because that's what they're looking for outside of their day-to-day work.
Absolutely.
100%. Shawn, you want to bring us home there?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start off with this. In order to do business with us, we need to make it sexy. In order to attract the right people, we need to make it sexy. How are we going to compete with the Googles? How are we going to compete with the Amazons? We've for far too long just thrown money and bonuses at it. But with the new generation that's coming up, it's more about time and working from home,
community,
and
yes,
community and what have you.
Balance.
So it's about having the conversation. It's not. I think it's about reaching out to the people that can help, not thinking that you have to do it on your own. But yeah, I think like April said, I mean, to attract people, we just have to make it fun again. We stopped having fun at some point in this industry. When I love data, you know what I mean. I'm a data, but you know what I mean. Like we stopped having fun at some point. So I'm all for going from a hierarchy to more networks. It's about hiring people, smart people, and just getting out of their way. Just let them do it. Manage the data, coach the people, but they know what they want to do, and I think they want to have a certain flexibility. They don't want to be micromanaged.
No,
right?
look, I think you guys bring up all great valid points of how we can attract new talent to them. I mean, look, when it's from building networks and communities, from listening to our staff, and really collecting those data points of why do they like doing this, and can we kind of reverse engineer that data into a message that other people would be interested in. And then just the commitment to the developing of the people. It's like, look, I want to know if I come into this place that this is not a job, this is a career path. How are you going to develop me as an individual? I remember one of the first jobs I ever took. I took a job with Radio Shack. Why? Because there was an article in a Forbes magazine that my father gave to me when I was a teenager that said they had the best manager training program in the country. All right, equivalent to a college education, and they would actually pay you to do it. So I went there, and that's what I did. But no, it's a great point, though, right? You don't hear stuff like that come from the automotive space, but I definitely think we could. We can create that amazing PR. It's not something that we talk about.
Yeah. I would agree, and I think some of the most innovative dealerships that I talk to are trying to create those opportunities, right?
Yes.
I mean, college isn't for everybody.
No.
And one of the real opportunities that, people coming out of college that have technical ability is to go into service, be a service technician. The market needs so many service technicians right now. And, some of the dealerships that I've talked to in order to create those opportunities, they go to career day at their high school in town where their stores are, and they hire them and train them and buy their tools, and I'll do all this for you if you spend 5 years at my store. So they're very proactive in trying to bring people into the industry.
Well, and then investing in their education. So you look at Digital Dealer, and we were having a lot of conversations yesterday as we're wrapping up the last day here. And why are the OEMs not here? Why are the OEMs not sponsoring the Shawns and Aprils of the world, the next generation, to help educate them to that next level so that we all do work together to build a good foundation? Instead, we fight and scratch and claw to get, a dealer principal here because they're the one that signs the check. But do they know how the tech works? They need their people that build the process to be here with them, getting the education, which is what makes this conference, I think, stand out against the rest. Yet I know that me coming early on is 100% gave me a leg up in everything I do every day. And it's the OEMs and the dealerships that stand behind their people to educate them that is key.
100%. Guys, this has been an absolute amazing conversation. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a blast.
Thank you very much.
Jason.
Thank you,
guys.
Jason. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Matador Yachtcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at matador.ai to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.